Sit back and listen to this extremely interesting story.
Following day, they got out of bed at 6 a.m. Stan got ready for a day at the office while Jen cooked breakfast for them both. While eating, Stan noticed that something was bothering Jen. "You okay, babe?" "Yeah, just tired, I guess. I didn't sleep well last night." Jen replied, not looking up from her plate. Physically, she felt fine, despite a slight sore throat and lack of sleep. Her problem was emotional. Jen felt conflicted about what happened last night. Donald forced her. She couldn't go through with it, but she felt guilty for allowing herself to be in this situation in the first place. She didn't know if his disability made him not know what he did was wrong. Jen had spent most of the night reliving what had happened and was no closer to an answer. Then there was her feeling of betraying Stan. She might not have agreed to what she and Donald had done, but she hadn't told his mother or anyone else. To make it worse, her body had responded. Stan reached across the table and lifted her eyes to meet his. "I know you, dear, and something is bothering you. I promise to listen if you want to talk, but I understand if you don't want to as well." His touch was gentle, and the love and understanding in his eyes were too much. Jen pulled away and turned to hide the tears forming in her eyes. She picked up her plate and put it into the sink, leaving an awkward silence. "Here is your chance. Just tell him what happened. Stan will understand and know how to fix everything," Jen thought. She steadied her voice and started talking. "I'm okay, Stan. I guess leaving the house and moving here hit me harder than I thought." Jen realized she had chickened out, and now the opportunity to tell him had slipped away. "I will just have to stay away from Donald," she promised herself. "You sure that's all that is going on?" Stan asked as he wrapped his arms around her. She briefly tensed but relaxed before Stan was sure he had felt it. "Yes, dear," she said, turning in his arms and kissing him. "Now, enough of this nonsense. You must go if you don't want to be late for work." "I could call in and stay to help with the movers," Stan offered. "We had this discussion already. The movers are doing all the work and only need someone to point out where things go. I have already taken the day off, so there's no sense both of us using vacation days for this," Jen said as she ushered him towards the door. She handed him his briefcase and gave him one final kiss before watching him leave. She closed the door and put her forehead against it when he was out of sight. She felt tears running down her face as she wept. She managed to pull herself together before finishing cleaning the kitchen. Glancing around to ensure everything was where it should be, Jen took a long shower before the movers arrived. The rest of the day was a blur as their belongings were delivered. In the end, she tipped the movers and thanked them for all of their help. Glancing at the clock, she realized Stan would be home soon and started dinner. Over the next few days, their routine settled out, coming close to what it had been before the move. Jen had not seen or spoken with Camilla or her son, and while Stan still asked if she was okay, Jen could put up a better front. Stan tried several times to spend time with his wife, but Jen refused, saying that she was still not feeling well. She hated lying to him, but she also didn't want to hurt him. On Thursday, the company Stan worked for informed him they needed him in Denver for a week to help with a problem. He tried explaining the issue to Jen, but she grew bored and stopped listening. "When are you leaving?" Jen asked after she realized he had stopped talking about the problem. "Tomorrow morning early." Stan told her, looking a little sheepish. "Tomorrow. Why didn't you lead with that?" Jen realized she was yelling and took a deep breath. "Well, I was hoping when you realized how important it was for me to go, you wouldn't be too upset on the short notice," Stan said, embracing Jen. She looked at him, trying to appear cross, but the look on his face won her over and she started laughing. "I can never stay mad at you for long," Jen said, wrapping her arms around Stan tighter. She leaned in and gave him a playful kiss, quickly becoming more intense. Before long, they were ripping each other's clothes off and stumbling together into the bedroom. Jen dropped to her knees and began to pleasure Stan. She felt Stan put his hands on her head, but unlike Donald, he didn't try to force her. He gently caressed her hair. "That feels fantastic," Stan told her. He watched his wife pleasuring herself with more enthusiasm than ever. I don't know if I've ever seen her so excited, he thought. He knew he wouldn't last much longer if she kept this up. Jen must have thought the same thing because she stepped back and stood up and leaned over the bed. "Do it to me," Jen begged, looking over her shoulder. Stan looked at his wife, wondering what had happened to her. "Please, I really need this." Stan nodded and smiled as he complied with her request. "I don't know if I've ever seen her like this before," Stan thought. "Harder," Jen begged. Stan complied with her request. For several minutes the only sounds were the pounding and her almost constant moaning. Stan knew he was getting close to pleasure when he felt Jen reach him as well. She began to shake and pulled away from Stan as she lost control and fell onto the bed. She slowly regained control and looked up at him through her hair. I needed that. She looked down to see that Stan hadn't finished. "Did you enjoy yourself, baby?" "No, I was close when you got it," he told her, looking at her. "Well, we can't leave it that way," she said as she got back up. "Want to try again?" Stan grabbed it and started working on it. He only lasted a few minutes before he got what he wanted, prompting another massive moment of pleasure from Jen. They both collapsed on the bed to catch their breath. "Wow," Stan told her as he stroked her, "that was just fantastic. That felt good," Jen told him as she got out of bed and ran to the bathroom. A few minutes later, he heard the shower running and joined her cleaning up. Jen helped Stan pack and then got ready for bed. "You going to be okay while I'm gone?" Stan asked as she cuddled in bed. "This isn't the first time we have been apart, Stan. I will be fine," she assured him. "I am so lucky to have such an understanding wife," Stan told her. "Yeah, lucky me too," she replied. Stan laughed and quickly fell asleep. Jen tossed and turned as she realized she didn't want to be left alone in the apartment. She kept flashing back to when Donald attacked her, and the prospect of being in the same building without Stan to help her frightened and excited her. The last thing she thought before she fell into a fitful sleep was how horribly fucked up she was.
Subscribe to our channel so that your second C gaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.